Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson, and we're talking about the speaker's path. Not always a straight line. And my client, Erica Barnhart, is here to attest to that. Welcome, Erica.
Thanks for having me, Jane. It's fun to be here.
I am so thrilled that you're coming on to, kind of open the kimono for people, really just share what's going on behind the scenes in terms of who you are and what you're bringing to the table on the keynote stage, on the training stage, and all the places. Talk about let's start from kind of where you are in your life today. What are all the goings on that you have today?
Oh, I don't know that we want to go there in its entirety. This is gonna be a cliche, but like I'm a mom. So I have a daughter who is about to go to college in the fall, to the University of Washington, to be specific. And a son who's in grade 9. And so, it is a really interesting time of transition. And I mentioned that first one. I love my kids and I'm super proud of them. And I think teenagers get a bad rap. So I'm always trying to say, they're great. But it is a time of transition. And you and I started working together, kind of a year ago when all of that was just starting. And so I think it's not by happenstance that, with that as a life backdrop, that my path sort of ebbed and flowed, and it was I didn't end up where I initially thought that I wanted to end up, but I'm so much more energized and at peace with where I did. Yeah. So my professional portfolio, as I like to call it, because it just makes it feel more manageable somehow. So I have had a company, Claxon, for about 20-ish years, focused on working with purpose-driven clients. So you need a volition to make the world a better place, and teaching them how to communicate with clarity and confidence. Okay. And that, that has had its own evolution, which we can talk about. But so there's that hat. And I'm also a teaching professor at the University of Washington at the Evans School. So I go back and forth on any given day between kind of that academic teaching in a formal, environment like that is my job, which is to teach about leadership and communication. But it's actually quite similar in a lot of ways to the work I do with clients. And now that docket of work, the client specific work, I do a lot more coaching. So both team training and coaching, and then one-on-one with leaders. Again, all roads lead back to how do you communicate with clarity and confidence. So they're very complementary, and that it's a lot of different moving parts and pieces for sure.
A lot of moving parts. And you have some pretty, if I might brag on you for a second, you have some pretty impressive clients on your client list. Are you comfortable talking about anybody that you're working with right now?
Yeah, it's all on my website. So I have had the privilege of working with folks like, the Gates Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, quite a few times. With Microsoft, with White Pages, so sort of bigger name in that regard. But the majority of my work has been with foundations and nonprofits. For sure. Not that they are the only ones making the world a better place, but they are definitely uniquely focused on it. So yeah.
And the work that Claxon Communications does is really important in the world. And I love that you're doing that. Okay. So you come to me, I don't know, a year or two ago and say, I want to be what?
I wanted to do more paid public speaking. I was like, it's time, Jane. And I've been really lucky. Like, I love public speaking. I did drama growing up. So like, it's a comfy place for me to be in front of people, which is a little weird, but I really love it. And, fundamentally, I'm an educator. And so being in front of a crowd has always felt, like a lovely place to be and a privilege to be there. But I came to you and I was like, there's too many things on my plate. And so I want to like elevate the speaking and blah, blah, blah.
Right. And we've come a long way, baby. And sometimes it's not a straight line. And I want to pull up a saying that I got from Dan Sullivan. I was a part of Strategic Coach for many, many years, over a decade. And he came in one day and gave us a speech called, I want what I want because I want it.
Want it.
And I love, you don't have to justify what you want to anybody else. And you just want what you want because you want it. And so I want to add a little on to that saying, and I want what I want because I want it, and I reserve the right to change my mind.
Yes. Yes.
For the people who have decided that they want to shift, evolve, pivot, whatever you want to call it, in their businesses. And you know what? I'm in the camp with you right now, where I've decided that, hey, wait a second, let me just reevaluate that for a second. Okay, so talk about your process. You start to go down the road, and it was very actually helpful. I think you had to really clear the land for your empire. And so some things needed to happen in your business to do that. And I think it was pretty helpful in terms of allowing people to see immediately how you were going to help them.
Yeah, definitely. So I shifted last year. It's going to seem like a nuance, but it was actually substantive. The company was technically Claxon Marketing, and so we worked together because that ended up feeling quite limiting to me. And so we transitioned to Claxon Communication, and it was important to me because I was starting to really evolve the communicate for good model.
Right.
And so when you communicate for good, you're communicating for the good of yourself, your team, the organization, and then by extrapolation, the world.
Right.
So that was a lot of the laying the foundation, but it also was a shift in mind share from, oh, we would hire Claxon to do our organizational messaging. And I still do that work. I did change my offers pretty substantively as well, so that I could do the work more in a more streamlined, kind of more effective way with clients. But what ended up happening, which was really interesting, was I just got more and more requests from clients to be doing like the how do we communicate as a team? How do I communicate as a leader, as somebody who holds positional authority? And it's kind of heartbreaking, Jane, because like the number, when I have potential clients come to me, well, it depends on like if they're wearing a hat and thinking about their team, then they're like, we like each other. In general, I would say this is how it goes, but we cannot, like, we are frustrated and we don't know why. We don't know why. And then what, as an individual, when they come, they're like, I don't know what's going wrong, but I'm not landing my communication. And it's really getting in the way of my success and the organization's success and the team's success. So they were really big shifts. And so when we started, so I did the sort of rebrand or the transition. And then I was like, this is interesting. Like, I don't know exactly where the speaking is going to fit in. And you and I were having a conversation in one of our sessions. I was like, at the time, I had realized that I don't just achieve. I was like addicted to overachieving.
Yes.
In every, realm, right? Like if you're supposed to drink 75 ounces of water, I'm going to drink 100. If you're supposed to work out 3 days a week, I'm going to work out 5. It was just absurd and tiring. And so I was ready to sort of do that work. And then you and I were having a conversation, and you said something, I'm going to paraphrase, but you were like, Erica, you keep talking about how like you in like the speaking part of your business isn't successful, but I'm pretty sure you just told me that you were going to do a training for the Gates Foundation like later this week. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's a training.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was this being hung up on, because the bulk of I've done many keynotes. I love keynotes. It's awesome. But I wouldn't say, I'm known for that. I'm much more known for, this, what I would refer to as training. And you just invited me to be like, well, maybe that seems like success. So maybe you need a reframe.
Yeah. So the definition of success for you at one point was, I must be a keynote speaker to be in this realm. And then it's like, well, I've got this contract that's pretty large, and then this other large contract, and then another one just came in.
Mhm.
And I'm like, hey, wait a second. Success, what's the definition of it? And so you went to work and really redefined what success looked like for you. Talk
Mhm.
a bit about the identity piece.
Yeah, I mean, um, I was really wrapped up in this idea that I would be a keynote speaker. And I just want to underscore, you want what you want because you want it. And I love that, you don't have to justify it.
Yes.
And um, it became clear that I wasn't clear on why I wanted that. Like I wanted it to be part of my identity.
Mhm.
And I was allowing success to be like something that was in the future, as
Yeah.
opposed to focusing on all the ways in which that was already true for me.
Mm.
I was already a successful speaker. The other piece of it that I realized was like in trying to become this keynote speaker, like it was taking the joy out of thinking about speaking and
It was always
doing the
out to the
speaking.
picture. It was always something that was like out of
Yes.
my grasp. I want to read this screensaver that I have on my iPad. Remember, being happy doesn't mean you have it all. It simply means you're thankful for all that you have.
Yes.
And so you, I think, needed permission
Mhm.
to be
Yeah.
good, like to check the box,
Yeah.
right? Because being
Right.
an overachiever sometimes it, and I think this is really interesting. My old boss, Vince Vicenti, used to talk about the "I'll be happy when" mentality.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when I check that box. I'll be happy when I check that box, and I'll be happy when. And you and I have often run a little bit parallel in our circumstances. And I've said to people that for the last 30 years, I've felt like I've had my foot on the gas pedal, not down to the floor, but somewhere between half and down to the floor.
Mhm.
And just recently, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to ease off for a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, and the word focused hustle, I think is probably pretty good for the people who are in our school. They're doing focused hustle.
Mhm.
It's very intentional.
Yeah.
But I don't really want to hustle anymore.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, I think
your business hustling, right?
yeah. Well, but this relates back to identity, right? Like the question, who would I be if I wasn't hustling?
Oh, interesting. Who would you be? A successful person who's,
A lot less stress, let me tell you.
in life, perhaps? Like,
Yeah. Who would I be if?
ah, we
I mean,
really,
most mornings I'm like a journaling junkie, so I'm always journaling, but I with great consistency say, who do I want to be today? How do I want to show up? Sort of looking at, for whom am I showing up? And then who do I want to be? And so, I mean, you can play with these things, and when I'm doing coaching, we do a lot of this work, right? Like who do you want to be? You get to choose to a great extent. Yeah. And like, who would I be if I took my foot off the gas? And that
yes,
can actually, I just want to acknowledge that can be scary.
yes,
Like, I think it's an act of bravery. So for listeners who are thinking like, I might want to do this identity work, some of it really is an act of bravery because
and
your subconscious mind is going to be like, like, this is who you are. You're a
you
hustler. Your foot, on the gas.
you should be in fear right now,
Right. That's right.
generating. And what I've really been working on is just my money mindset, because it's
Mm,
not that I'm saying no to business. It's not that I don't want to do business anymore. It's that I want to narrow my scope just a little bit further and really focus on a couple of things. And not a lot of people know this, but I'm going to be coaching. I'll continue with my private coaching.
mhm.
I'm going to do a mastermind for women. And I think I have a title on it, the Catapult Squad.
That's
Words, I like words. So the Catapult Squad, how does that land for you?
I mean, I assume that so for me, I actually work the method, right? So I have this thing called the Claxon method, which allows you to sort of communicate with clarity and confidence, but consistently, right? So you always start with what does success look like, then who's the target audience, or who are you communicating with, and then how are you going to communicate? So messaging or the name of something is always a how. So my question back would be, what does success look like for the mastermind?
That they all go from this place to this place.
Mm-hmm.
On a podcast, you didn't see that because
Yep.
you may not be watching it virtually, but they're all going from, say, 150,000 to 300 or 3 to 5 or whatever that might look like financially. That's what it looks like. It looks like a leap.
A leap. Okay. And who are the women?
It's women who are out speaking professionally, and they may have other sources of income like you, consulting,
Mm-hmm.
coaching, etc. Yeah. They're already earning over 100K.
Right.
Yeah.
Catapult. Okay. So we've all heard the expression that words matter, and what fails to get pointed out is words matter because they are matter.
Yes.
Okay. So fundamentally, words are like everything else in the universe, are about energy. And so I totally get catapult. I like squad. That's just fun. That's very on brand for you. Like you get a squad. But I wonder about catapult. Like, do they catapult has like a kind of intense energy. And if you think about what a catapult is.
Like, I don't want to go flying through the air.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to go fly through. Is there a safety net? What happens when I'm midair? I don't know.
That's a good question. Okay. All right. Well, you're giving me some good feedback. So to be continued, people. We don't know what the name is yet of Jane's mastermind. Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about the permission to want what you want because you want it. And how did you kind of get there and be just like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm going now.
You know what? I'm always attentive to resistance.
Mhm.
And when I was noticing, like, I write a lot. I love writing. It's, it's fun. I do it for a living. I get hired to find words, and I was resisting writing the content for my speaking page. Like I was really stalled out with it. And I'm like, what is this about? Right. And because that's always that level of resistance is always gonna be about something. And finally I was like, something just feels really off. And it was the realization that it was a realization about how much joy, because I have done, either low cost or I'll do free public speaking, regionally, because it's great biz dev. I mean, my best biz dev is speaking engagements.
Mhm.
And I just kind of stopped doing them. And then I was stalled out and I was like, what is going on? And I just was like, I love this and I'm doing less of it rather than more of it. And is that what I want? Like, who do I want to be? Do I want to be somebody who is doing this, and sometimes making really great money and other times doing it because it's biz dev or just for the sheer joy of seeing people have aha moments. And I was missing seeing people have aha moments. And so the permission was like permission to just create as many of those moments as possible for folks.
In whatever way.
And it can look a lot of different ways. And to trust myself, I mean, I think there's a piece to all of this that really is about self-trust.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a confusing world for really having depth and breadth of self-trust because we've become so reliant on external forces and external validation to say like, yep, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
So I've worked a lot on sort of reconnecting. I am somebody who has very, very good instincts.
Yeah.
I always have. And so I just went back to like, what do your instincts say about how this is going, Erica? Like, it's not great, but there's that tension, right? Between, you also don't want to, well, I just speak for myself, but I think listeners of this podcast, like they want to be successful. They have goals. So that piece around knowing and discernment of like, am I like bailing on a goal because it's hard, or like, what are the reasons that I'm shifting focus?
Yes.
And being clear on that and not using it, to let yourself off the hook because something isn't going the way you want. that is different than this isn't what I want.
Yes. And I didn't really, I don't think you were just defining success in the way that allowed you to win.
Yeah. 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 It didn't feel like winning.
I always had to have some, thing out there. And I think it's interesting for people who say, okay, I want to become a keynote speaker, really look at who you're getting your validation from in your life. Are you wanting this to serve your ego so that you can be up there in front of the 500 or 1,000 people and getting all the glory and yay, yay, yay? Or are you coming from a place of service?
Yeah.
And I saw light bulbs going off. And I know that most of the people that are in my world are really coming from a great place where they're serving humanity. And if you're waiting for some sort of external validation, we know that that's just problematic, right?
Very problematic
Yeah.
because it will never be enough.
No.
And you can't, let me say that it's much easier to validate yourself because you can source that anytime you want. That's available to you anytime you want. Like I go through my day and I'm like, yay, me,
Yeah.
worked out this morning. I did the thing, high five, all the rest of it. Whereas if I was waiting.
Yeah, especially in the speaking world where people are still
Yeah.
kind of always waiting for you to get a real job.
Yeah.
Really be aware of who are you sharing your goals with.
Mm-hmm.
And because the people who are probably closest to you in your life, they may not get them.
Yeah.
They may not understand your goals, and they may not understand, when you achieve them. I remember sitting out back for a happy hour with a couple of my neighbors once, and I had just finished a really intense coaching certification. And I was like all excited about it. And I'm sharing with them all of these things. And one person said one thing to me that completely let the air out of my balloon. And I thought, okay, well, there you go. Now you know that this isn't the audience for you to talk this to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so often our neighbors aren't.
Yeah.
Don't know about your. So often my neighbors aren't. It's just a matter of really understanding who is going to be on the right wavelength for me to share this with.
Yeah. Again, there's discernment. Who is that person? And also who is it safe to share it with?
Yes.
Which those two things are related, but it still is unusual to be an entrepreneur. And it's very unusual to be somebody who's like, I actually want to stand up in front of people. That sounds amazing. People are like, why? So I think it really is a unique thing for people who want speaking as part of their business. And I intentionally, sort of made that not about identity, right? Not people who want to be speakers, but people who want speaking as part of their business or part of your life. It's there's a lot of raised eyebrows, but this gets right back to like, you want what you want because you want it.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to go out and speak much anymore. And I just happened to be in Florida, and the Florida chapter of NSA was saying, we've got a date in March. Do you want to come do it? And I really thought quite seriously about no, I hadn't been out on the road speaking since pre-COVID. I had done dozens and dozens and dozens of chapters before that. And that was a great way of business development, like you said. And I just wasn't sure, like, I'm kind of done enough for 30 years. I don't know if I need to do it anymore. And I got there in the room with the kind of approach that I'm just someone here sharing what I know. Kind of like a little bit of a not take it or leave it attitude, but just like not a lot of pressure on me to perform.
Yeah.
It was just, here's what I know to be true. Well, oh my gosh, it was one of the most rewarding gigs that I've had. And now it's like, okay, well, maybe once in a while, if it's really want to go, maybe we'll do some more of that. because it is good for business. And I know I should be doing particular things. If I was a person who was in hustle mode, I would be out speaking in all the chapters. I'm not really in that mode anymore. And so what are you doing, listener, to be at where you are at in your business? What are you doing to support where you are in your business? Have you taken your foot off the gas pedal a little bit, maybe like me, and decided that you're not going to slow it down, but you're going to work smarter? How's that?
Well, this is, kind of comes back to the laws of thermodynamics and physics, right? Like once you say this is the thing and you really put the end, like once I was like, I want this to be joyful again. I want as many people as possible to know that they can communicate with clarity and confidence. It is a learnable skill, right? And once I made that shift, so many more opportunities, well, two things happened. So many more opportunities started coming my way. And I had the mindset you shift to notice, like when it was speaking. Like last week, I got to do I had a colleague who was traveling. So I did a guest lecture for her graduate course on leadership on communication. And I think in the past, I would have been like, well, harumph, of course, like I've been doing that for a long time. And it was so fun. It was just pure joy.
Yes, yes. And we don't know until we try what is going to bring us joy.
Yeah. But the noticing and being so grateful for every opportunity like that, every opportunity to create those aha moments for folks has been huge. And
it's nice. That's nice. Well, I'm going to change the title of this to Redefining Success in Speaking, because I really do think that that's what this is all about. It's just, what does your version of success look like?
Success for you. It's not for anybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And so if you see someone up on the big main stage at a big speakers conference and they're defining what their own success is, really put it through your own and decide, hey, no, that's not for me. I'm not going to be on planes 50 times a year.
Right.
No, thank you. That's not who I'm going to be. Tell everybody, thank you so much for, like I said, opening the kimono and real about where you've gone in your journey to defining your own success. Tell everybody where they can connect with you, or if there's something that you would like to offer for them.
I would say two places. So I have a podcast called Communicate for Good. So if communicating with clarity and confidence is on your radar docket, I would check that out. And then Claxon's website, which is claxon-communication, no S, .com is a great, first step. The only social media I'm on is LinkedIn. After much experimentation.
And are you there as Erica Mills Barnhart or Erica Barnhart?
Erica Barnhart.
Okay. And Claxon, by the way, is CLAXON, just FYI. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much for coming on this journey of self-discovery with us. We appreciate it. And we appreciate you setting out and defining your own path to success. And with that, we'll say, see you soon, wealthy speakers. Bye for now, everyone.